Hey y'all, I'm back again with another video. Today we are doing a Brazilian knot install, and if you saw my previous video of the takedown, this is the same lady. She came back 2 days later. So first I did the takedown, and now we are doing the install. uh so what I do with all of my install is I take out the I take, okay, where's my thoughts? Okay, so I do the leave out at the top, and then I do the side around the ear, the usual, the perimeter. And then I used to braid it, but then when I will braid it, I have to flat iron it again. So if the hair is already smooth, I try not to, give myself too much work to do. So I would just rubber band it off on the side out of the way. Um, if I'm doing curly hair, then yes, I will braid it, because, sometimes at the end they'll be like they want to wear the hair curly and it's already braided, so that works. But if I know I'm going to style it a certain way, I would try not to braid the perimeter. I would just, rubber band it and leave it smooth. Okay, so pay me no mind, because a lot of time when I'm working and it is something repetitive as Brazilian knot, I'm watching TV. I watch TV, and sometimes I'm so into the TV that, I'm not looking at what I'm doing, because I can feel what I'm doing. So um, you see me looking up, it's the TV that I'm looking at. I don't know what TV show I was watching, but it was pretty interesting. Okay, so back to the hair. So the sectioning, as you know, is the leave out sectioning is based on how you would like to wear your hair. If most of your hairstyle is going to be um worn down, then usually the goal is not to leave a lot of hair out, because a lot of time, you don't want to you don't want to have to maintain your own hair all the time. But take into consideration when you're doing Brazilian knot, all all okay, emphasizing all of your hair is out. Okay, so it doesn't matter really how much hair is left out in the perimeter. you know your hair, all of it is out, because the thread only wraps around, you know 8 to 10% of your hair at the root, and then the rest is blended in with the extensions. I am moving so slow watching this TV show. I don't know what it was. Now I need to figure out what had my attention so bad. Okay, so now the back is how high up you want the ponytail when you wear it. If you want that ponytail that sit right at the top, like the crown of the hair of the head, like right at the top, I have, depending on the length of your hair, I'm gonna leave out a lot more in the back. If you're just wearing a ponytail that's like, mid mid crown down there, I don't have to leave that much. And if you're doing a low bun, at the nape, then I don't have to leave anything at all, because some of the hair that kind of come out as time goes on. So you don't need to leave out a whole bunch of hair. But, you know, it's based on how you want to wear your hair that the perimeter is left out. Okay, so um yeah, so now I'm going to start working on the Brazilian knots itself. It's very repetitive. For me, I have been doing the Brazilian knot since late 2009, early 2000, late 2009, and it's very easy for me to do it. And I know when I do it, people look at it and they're like, oh, that's easy. I can do that. I've trained quite a bit of people, and I can tell you it's not that easy. It's not as easy as it looks. And I think that most people who get the technique easier are people who have experience in braiding. And by braiding, I'm not talking about cornrows. I'm talking about like individual braids, because it's almost the same concept. If you've done braiding, like the original braiding where you wrap the extension around a couple of times before you start to braid, those people who know how to do those type of braids usually have a better understanding of the concept of doing Brazilian knots. So I have been doing it for quite a long time. I did start out as a braider. I used to braid long time ago. My God, maybe 20 years ago, I used to braid. So doing Brazilian knot came a little bit easy to me. So um, if you would like to learn how to do the Brazilian knot, I do teach. My class is, I have a 1 day, 8 hour class, or we can do a 2 day class where we will work on a live model on the second day so that, you get the experience on working on someone's head. Now, I know a lot of people think that when you do the Brazilian knot, it's very painful. It's not painful. If you've gotten it done and it was so painful, um, yeah, that's a problem. But it should not be painful. It should be, you should feel it, but you should feel comfortable. So while it look like it's tight, it is not tight at all. Um, I do this so much that, I know my grip, and I'm very comfortable with the way I grip the hair. So I make sure that it's comfortable enough for you to pull it up in a ponytail. And another thing that I say, that when I do Brazilian knots and people tell me, "Oh, I'm gonna wear my hair in a ponytail," I say I'm gonna need you to not do that for the first 3 days. Even though it's not tight, it is installed in a certain position. All right, so because it is installed in a certain position, I just said, just leave it down for a few minutes. Now, I was actually taking my break, and I didn't realize the camera was running, but that salad was a good salad. If you eat some Stampede salad, you know what it is. Okay, so back to the Brazilian knots. So I do not count how many Brazilian knots I do, because I've had that question asked plenty of time. People like, well, how many Brazilian knots are in there? I'm like, I don't know. I just do the rows, and then I section the small squares, and I usually do them in like a bricklayer position so that the hair, um, they have the space to fall in between and cover the little squares. Um, there are many ways of parting when you're doing the Brazilian knot, but that's for someone who's taking a class. So I'm just kind of showing you, a day and I doing Brazilian knot at the salon. Um, so we are doing a 3 bundle hair install. Um, we are using my raw hairline. I'm not sure if this is Indonesian hair or if this is Cambodian hair. And the reason why I'm not sure is because this is not her first install. This is probably her third or fourth install reusing the same hair. So it's been a while. I don't know exactly if she has Cambodian or Indonesian raw hair, but I have Cambodian hair, Indonesian, Vietnamese hair. I don't carry a lot of Chinese hair. I really don't. I don't carry Chinese hair because a lot of my clients like to reuse their hair, and with Chinese hair, I feel like, it's a one-time use type of thing, and my clients spend a lot of money, so I want them to be able to reuse the hair. And if the technique costs a lot, you want hair that you're able to reuse. All right, so I had my assistant kind of film from the top so that, you know, those of you who are not familiar with the technique can see exactly how it's done. So it's just loose raw hair, bulk hair preferably, hair that is not wefted, but that is loose. And some vendors will call it loose ponytail hair if you want to order your own bulk hair. And that is set right on top of your natural hair. And then I will use elastic thread at the base with a little bit of, you know, grip control to get all of them in one space, and then just wrap it. I don't count how many times I wrap, so you can slow down this part or rewind it and count. I don't really count. I just keep going until I feel like, okay, this is secure. Like I said, I've been doing this for a very long time, so I can tell when I've done enough or when I've done too little. And then I do about 3 to 4 knots. And then that's it. I move on to the next one. So this is why the Brazilian knot is probably my most favorite technique when it comes to strand by strand. Because I've done K-tip, I've done I-tips, I've done microchet. Brazilian knot is the best to me. Why? Because the technique itself does not require much. Hair and thread. That's it. K-tip require a heating tool. It requires the best keratin. Um, it also required what else? It requires you to, like, you can do the Brazilian knot on just about any type of hair. K-tip is not for everyone, right? Um, I-tip, the metal to me is not for everyone as well. The only people that the Brazilian knot doesn't work for is someone who might be allergic to latex. So when I do the Brazilian knot, I only need one thing, which is the elastic thread, right? Because normally when you do hair extension, you know that you're going to need hair extension. But a lot of time they require solution, they require certain product, they require certain tools. Brazilian knot, you have thread, you have scissors, you're good to go. But it's not just any type of thread. Of course, it's elastic thread. But it is my favorite technique because the damage to the hair, like people always say, oh, do extension damage your hair? I say extension do not damage your hair. Your lack of maintenance is what damages your hair. Your lack of maintenance, and also look at this second phone ringing at the wrong time. Let me pause for a minute. Okay, so where was I? Yes, so your lack of maintenance, and also the amount of time that you leave your extension in. And I know I kind of covered that in the other video. Those to me are the two components that tells you if extension would damage your hair or not. Also another one is how much hair is added to your real hair. You know, because sometimes you have people who don't have a lot of hair and they want to add 2 to 3 bundles. If you don't have the hair that can handle that capacity, that density, that is also going to weigh in on your hair and make it hard on your hair. So I like the Brazilian knot because, one, to me the installation is very simple, and it does not require a bunch of, you know, foreign stuff. The removal process is so important to me as far as doing hair extensions. Um, a lot of people do hair extension, but they don't really show you what it's like to remove it. it's not easy removing certain techniques, and some people will not agree with me. But unless you've been doing hair extension for 20 years like I have, removal process is so important, because yes, it looks flat, yes, it's seamless, yes, it's this, yes, it's that, but when it comes down to removal, that's where you see, exactly how harsh it is. And also on the subject of how much hair is added, you know, when I do the Brazilian knot, I add as needed. Meaning areas that I know can handle more hair, I will add more hair, because I know the hair. I know there's certain area where I can pack it in, and I know areas where I cannot pack it in. Um, for people that like volume, I can give them volume with Brazilian knots. For people that don't like a lot of volume, I can give them less volume with Brazilian knots. Other technique, other methods of hair extensions is it's kind of like a one-way thing. When you do K-tips, you have to use the same amount of hair for everything to be seamless, right? Um, if that's what you're looking for, it works. If you're looking for volume, you have to add a lot of hair. And I know it doesn't make sense, but unless you're doing it, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Like, the average head of doing K-tip does not require 200 grams of hair. If you've done extension for a very long time, you will know that everybody, when it comes to K-tip, does not need 200 grams of hair. But in our community, Black women community, we look as 200 grams as not enough hair. So in other communities, 200 grams is too much hair. So if you understand that, you understand what I mean by with K-tip. You know it's not the same thing. Where else with Brazilian knot, I can give you 200 grams, and then it will feel like you have 300 grams. Right? With K-tip, you have to add a lot more. Like you have to do a lot more work to give the volume, because it's very small amount of keratin that you have to fuse in with the hair. If you add too much hair to one section, they don't have enough to adhere on, so it can cause shedding. So you have to have a certain amount. And if you want it to be thick, and if you want to have a lot more volume, you have to use keratin that sticks on a little bit more. And I've seen the difference in keratin. There are people who will tell you, oh, it's the same keratin. It's not. I've seen bad keratin and I've seen great keratin. Great keratin, very small amount of hair is used. Okay, so I'm going off topic here. I'm talking too much though. I'm done doing her Brazilian knots. um, so I curled her hair, and I didn't film the part where I was actually curling her hair because I didn't realize that the camera was not on. And before I knew, by the time I knew it, I was done curling. So that's all I have as far as the curling and the styling part. But I got to the top. I started curling. Um, Now I'm just fixing some of the curls to get them to go in a certain direction, and layering the side. And I get a lot of comments on my video where people are saying you're not cutting the hair, or we want to see client's face. You're not going to see all of my client face. That's just, you just have to get used to that part. When it comes to my content, you're not going to see everybody's face. There's a lot of people, most of my clients they pay for their service. All of my clients pay for their service, and if they don't want to be on camera, I can't force them to be on camera. But a lot they don't mind, and So when I'm able to have someone who doesn't mind, I'll show. Um, so not everybody allowed me to put layers in their hair, and you will see a good example. So here we go. See, she was like, wait, I don't want you to cut. I don't want you to cut. She wanted a very, and don't worry, she's not upset. It's just she felt like, because we've used this hair so many times, she wants to keep all the length. And if you remember my previous video, I talk about, you know, getting longer hair, because as you keep going with reusing the hair, it might feel like the hair is shorter and you want to keep all the length. So starting off long, like, you know, you start with 24 inches. By the time you get to your 6th install, 7th install, you are like, you know, 20 or 18 inches. So yeah, so I didn't cut a lot because she wanted to keep as much as possible in. And I was letting her know, like, you know, your side, we just have to trim just a little bit so that it flows and that the curls on the side are able to, you know, you see, once we have a little bit of layer in the front, everything flows. So this is my Brazilian knot from beginning to the end. I hope you enjoyed this video and I didn't bore you with my off topics subject that I just started rambling on. But I hope to bring you some more video when I have time to do more voiceover. Hope you enjoyed it. Have a good day. Bye.